It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. I went out, and if you've never paddled a surfboard this way, it's not I was a good scuba diver at the time, but not a surfboard. Anyway, so I'm getting, this muscle system here doesn't work very well after you do it. So anyway, I didn't make any difference. But I was doing pretty well. I got on my knees and came in on one, and I was able to sit down and come in on one, and I was able to stand up a little bit. And so after about 6 or 8 rides in on a wave, I got out and I'm waiting there with a board to next wave, and I waited to a bigger one. I thought, well, I'll wait for a big one, and I keep waiting, and I suddenly noticed that I'm farther out than anyone else. The others are inshore more, and I'm out here. And I said, oh well, I can't touch bottom, but I can wait, and I'll ride in on the next wave. And so I'm hanging on the board, looking around, and then suddenly I look, and I'm twice as far away than everybody else. I'm way, close to a half mile offshore. I say, oh no, wait a minute, I better start to get back in. So I start paddling like this to get back in, and I'm tired. I get tired because of this motion. So I sit on the board, and coming over the Pali in Honolulu is this northwesterly trade wind that hits the ocean right off the beach and pushes everything offshore. More over there is a current that moves in around like that on Waikiki Beach, and if you get out in that, you're into something, and I didn't know anything about it. So here I am I'm swimming shore, and I get tired, so I stop. The moment I stop and sit on the board, well, I begin the sailing effect pushes me out again, and I yell. Nobody hears me. Everybody's way over there somewhere. There's all that surf noise. So I kept trying. I'd climb on the board and rest. And as I rested, I began to drift out. And I thought, well, I'll give up the board and try to swim in. And something told me, well, no, I better not do that. I'm too tired, it's too long. Net result, very simple. I slowly but steadily got out of sight of land. And then the day passed alternately between my being in the water, because I was getting a bad sunburn bake on the board, and getting wet and coming out again, and I get out because I thought, oh, there's sharks, typical thing. Until at sunset, I finally realized for the second time in my life that I could drown, and I could easily picture. I could never get to Tahiti or any place like that. It's too far. There's nothing out there after that. That was my impression. And so the sun is beginning to sink, and you begin to contemplate these things very deeply as to where and what and how. And this is long before I had any idea of out-of-bodies and all that. This is about 1953. So just as sunset, just as the sun was beginning to sink, over the horizon, coming directly at me, was what looked to be a fishing cruiser. And it didn't come over here and turn like this. It was coming directly at me, and it stopped, and without a word picked me up, picked up my board and dumped me on board and took me in. How far offshore do you think I was? I was 19 miles offshore when they picked me up. 19 miles. And they didn't ask me. That's what I never quite understood that. Why they like how the hell did you get out here? Whatever. They just matter of factly picked me on board, and
they did it all the time.
it would seem like that. But what I found out was, because that had always been a mystery, how I could see they were about 6 or 8 foot waves. They were not real heavy swells, but enough that you're up and down like this. How they could spot me at in that type of near sunset. How could they see me? And I'm not waving. They wouldn't have heard me anyway, or whatever. But they spotted me, and I was aimed directly. They didn't turn anything else. You know what I found out? I found out that when I got into that predicament, that it sent one of our life personalities called Trelo, and that's my name for him, because he's a tricky character, does sort of tricks. And you know what he did? He looked at the heading of this cruiser coming in, and he made the helmsman sneeze, and that made him correct just enough and kept him from looking at the correction, and that aimed me directly at the pickup spot, picking me up. the epilogue to that was very simple. The cruiser came in off Waikiki Beach, dumped me on shore, off on there and the board, and I was rested enough that I could swim in. And they warned me about the current. I said, yes, I know. I went in. Here's these, these gas lantern types with the Coleman type lanterns, what are they, with the gas wicks on them, and they were here on this place where the guy rents the things in. He was angry. He would have cursed me if he could, because he thought I had stolen his surfboard. Never mind whether I drowned or not. He didn't even think of that. He was thinking whether he had lost his surfboard or not. Anyway, but that's an illustration of how things, and it gave also the explanation, and it was another character who was adept, a part of me, who was adept at the long standing question that was impossible to answer, was in my teenage years, is how the $2 got underneath the board. I don't know whether you've read about that in one of the books. But that had been a chronic mystery, because when the board was lifted up, it hadn't been moved for years or whatever. It was a board beside the house. And you lift up, here's all the bugs and everything else, and here were two bright $1 bills underneath that. Seeing this desperate emotional need that I had on that Friday night, that particular Friday night, that this it of mine says, let's help the poor kid out. So they sent this one character, and he created two $1 bills and put them underneath the board. The most, and I believe it is because I can't find any other explanation. But there's a series of things I found out in my life that through even down into little kid stuff, where there has been this, guardian angel, helper, guide, whatever, has occurred, and it's all from the it of me. And I know this so surely, having observed it, that the it of each one of you does the same thing. And the moment you know it, it gets a beautiful sense of joy on it, because you know that you are so much more than you ever thought you were. And why is this so important tonight? Because you are right in the target area that you can begin to find it out. You will not get it all in this next run into 21, but you can begin to get the feel of this. Because what does it do? It opens up this whole part of you that makes it so much easier to do it this way than to laboriously chunk it. You can do it with the tools that you have right now. And in the weeks and months to come, that you will have fun doing. It's real thrilling stuff. You'll understand the parts of you. That's the other thing. You will understand yourself. And what does that mean? A whole new overview for you. You'll know what you are. You'll accept all the killers you've been and all the angels you've been, if you want to put it, all the saints, whatever. You'll find all of those within you, the whole scope, and it's most fascinating. That's why I dropped this on you tonight, because now's your chance to begin that. And it's the exquisite laughter that you will feel in yourself when you, in turn, get to that. Now, there's one final kicker, and you can really, then I'll leave it as it is, and that makes it even worse. After about 4 years of deepening and knowing my it, we got into this other thing about purposes and things like that, and I asked Willie, and Willie is you know who Willie is? My Willie, do you know who he was? He was a court jester in the 12th century, and he got beheaded because he said the wrong joke. So, but the thing that in turn was the final crux of all of this